My ex gave birth to a black baby. I'm a white male. Like the title states, I'm a 23-year-old white male, and when I was 21 my girlfriend at the time, who I thought I had impregnated, gave birth to a black baby. Kind of a difficult subject to talk about for me, but I thought it would be rather therapeutic to share, and there seemed to be a general interest. The incident that occurred changed me as a person. I fell into a deep depression afterwards, went to rehab, and was hospitalized for mental health reasons. Do you think, if the baby was white, but still not yours, the girl would have gone on pretending that nothing happened? Wholeheartedly. That's a scary thought. Makes me thankful. I think you dodged a very expensive bullet. Did you ever talk to her family afterwards? What did they have to say to you? I love her family surprisingly. Her dad tried to send me money to reimburse me for the gifts I had bought the child. I see them every once a while still. They always apologize to me whenever they see me. Good, hardworking people. Were you there during the delivery? If so, how did that situation unfold? I was. I entered shortly after the child was born. I noticed he had a rather dark pigment. I'm olive, so it wasn't that unexpected. As soon as I saw the child I knew it wasn't mine. Not that I could tell from the physical characteristics, though it was kind of obvious, but instinct told me something was wrong immediately. While in the room I was seeing red. I tasted nothing but charcoal, and smelled nothing but sulfur. It was a completely out of body experience. I was sitting in the room knowing the doctors and nurses were judging me. I knew I'd have to call my friends and family and tell them the supposed mother of my child was a cheating whore. I ended up asking my ex about an hour after she settled into her new bed in the hospital. She confirmed my worst fears. At that moment I blacked out. Next thing I remember, I was having a cigarette outside getting questioned for punching a hole in the wall of the nursery. I cut the hospital a check for $300 for the wall, called a cab, and laid in bed for the next 3 weeks calming my nerves with Jack Daniels. I blacked out. Apparently so did the kid. I love you. How did your girlfriend think she could get away with it? Was she just hoping to beat the odds, or was she aware that the baby might not be yours? She was totally aware it could not be mine. She was a crazy Catholic. When I first found out about the child I suggested adoption as an option. I had been with her for a couple years and loved her dearly, so in the end I dropped it and tried to do the right thing. The most painful thing about all of this was the amount of trust she betrayed. I had worked my ass off for 9 months to get a house and was absolutely excited the day the baby was born. She knew I spent hours pacing at night about how I would provide for everything. She knew I worked 40+ hours a week while going to school. In the end I like to think she thought the baby was going to be mine, but realistically I think she was trying to trap me into raising the child she couldn't abort. And that really ducking hurt. What happened that she ended up sleeping with this other guy? What transpired that ended up with her sleeping with him? He was her ex-boyfriend. I was out of town for the weekend to attend my brother's birthday. At least that's what I've gathered. She went black, then went back. I have a friend who had a girl that did this. He's white and the baby was white. He took care of it like his for 3 months. One day when he was alone with the baby he looked at it and thought, this kid is not mine. He went to the hospital and had a paternity test, and lo and behold it was not his. The bitch had the gall to say to him, I knew all along, but I knew you'd be a better father. What in the duck? I remember reading an article a while back on some feminazi website about how paternity tests are a horrible thing because a woman should have the right to sleep with as many men as she wants, but be able to choose the best guy to stick the kid with. That's unfortunate. Did she try to get you to stay? How'd the family react, and did she ever during her pregnancy make you think the baby wasn't yours to begin with? If she knew anyway. She called me every day for 2 weeks before I changed my number. She would say things like it was a drunken accident and it won't happen again. However, the father of her child is her ex from a few years prior. I knew she had unresolved feelings for him, but I didn't think it involved carrying his child. Ultimately I only ended up seeing her twice since then. I believe she lives in her parents' basement now, while the child's husband is a waiter in Mexico. It won't happen again. Oh okay, come on over. Did you ever confront the real father? If so, what did you say? Were you mad at him, or did you just want to hear what he had to say? The real father is an acquaintance. Through the photography scene I'm a member of, he actually fled the country upon finding out the child was his. For about 6 months after the child was born I would have extremely vivid dreams about hunting him down Liam Neeson style. Quite frankly the man is a coward. Am I still mad? Yes. Did I ever care what he had to say? No. Wait, what? He fled the country? Why? Where did he go? I kind of lost contact as the only way I was able to follow him was through Twitter. Last I knew he was a tour guide in Mexico because he didn't want to pay child support. I don't know that I necessarily believe in karma, but my ex certainly learned a lesson in it which is unfortunate. If you ever get the opportunity to confront him, what would you do? Realistically, I'd tell him to grow a sack and call his son. From what I can tell through various social media networks he's still in Mexico and still out of his son's life, which is the saddest part of this ordeal. I have an honest, if not blunt, question. Part of the anger I think I'm seeing here is aimed at the fact that she lied to you for 9 months and tried to get away with it. Honestly, if she had told you early and gotten an abortion and then told you, would there still have been a chance of you two staying together? Great question. To be honest, it would have changed a lot of things. The pressure that I was under for 9 months was brutal and contributed a lot to my mental breakdown afterwards. I wish I could say I'm forgiving enough to say I would take her back if she had an abortion, but that simply wasn't the case. The fact that she ducked some other guy and lied to me for 9 months in the hope that everything would be fine is what got to me. How did your family react? Also, what was her first facial reaction to the subject? My family felt really bad knowing that I had taken a lot of responsibility and worked hard to provide a house for my ex and her child. In the end no one could relate to how I felt, which led to me isolating. Drugs and alcohol, that sort of stuff. She looked shocked as hell when they gave her the baby, not that she could have been that surprised. What happened to her and the house? She lives with her parents. I live in the house. Hardest thing about it was repainting the nursery. It took me like 2 months, because whenever I would start to paint over the baby blue paint I would instantly start crying. My dad ended up helping me build a desk and furnish the nursery into a man cave. Without his help I probably would have just boarded up the door, haha. I understand how emotionally complicated and difficult such a question might be, but out of curiosity, did you ever stay in contact with the child after the fact? No, I wish I could say I was that strong of a dude. In the end it wasn't my responsibility. I'll let him keep all the toys and crib and all that stuff. I had been going to school and working full time for the 9 months prior to the baby being born. After that I had about $7,000 in savings that I used to kind of seclude myself. Was there a DNA test carried out? Because there have been cases of white couples having black kids due to a recessive gene. It's rare, but not unheard of. I apologize if my question seems obtuse, but it is an IAmA. Hey, no worries. A DNA test was performed as I was kind of curious about this as well. I'm somewhat olive skinned, so it wasn't too hard to believe, but the child was pretty dark, and I was a really light skinned, blonde haired baby. What was the reaction of the medical staff when they saw the baby? Did they look at you strange or anything? The nurses cleaned the child and almost immediately left. They kind of had sheepish grins, like they were really embarrassed for me or something. The doctor, once clean, gave me handshake and kind of half-heartedly said congratulations, like he knew what I was about to go through. They handled it professionally and I'm glad. It's still kind of blurry because I kind of blacked out a little bit. Were you relieved in any way? I know you were excited and everything, but damn, if I had a kid at 21 that would be awful. Not really. When I found she was pregnant I was terrified, but that quickly subsided into excitement. I was pretty close to done at school and was pretty happy with life at that moment. Did you suspect anything at all while she was pregnant? Did she act like she was guilty? Were there any signs that, in retrospect, you realize you should have paid attention to? Unfortunately I was caught completely off guard. She had talked about the child's father being a good dude and stuff, but I never thought anything of it. I think the only thing I could have done differently was hunt down the gentleman who caused all this. Did you ever want to get some kind of revenge? Or a bit in her face that you have a nice stable life and she now lives in a basement without child support? My brother asks me this all the time, ha 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 ha. It comes into my head every once in a while. Have you recently spoken to your ex since then? Not really. After something this terrible there's not much to say. I'll tell her happy birthday or Merry Christmas but nothing outside of that. It sounds like you really loved her. I'm sorry that happened to you, man. What were the doctor's reactions? Yeah, I really did. It's a shame how things ended. She meant a lot to me. The doctor and nurses looked embarrassed, like they knew what was going on, and were kind of scared about what might happen next. I'm not a violent guy but I'm sure they've probably seen people in that position that had a different outlook. My wife gave birth to a black baby. I was stunned, horrified, depressed. When I first saw that black child, I knew my marriage was over. I screamed at her, cheater, then ran outside in tears. My sister came out. At first I thought to console me, but instead they started beating me with her purse. She screamed, "You idiot, your wife is black." In all the hustle and bustle of childbirthing, I had forgotten the most true fact, that my wife is indeed black.